So this has been really cool the last couple of years to be able to see kind of a peek behind the curtain. What makes the Tampa Bay Lightning so great? And this is the third year that I've been invited to Amalie to be a part of this. And it's only a small portion of the media. It's usually the written media that gets a chance to be able to sit down and to be able to not only listen to Julien BriseBois and hear what he has to say as the Lightning general manager, but also to ask him questions. And I asked a couple of questions as well as I mentioned the people that were there: Eric Erlinson, Ed Encina, and John Romano from the Tampa Bay Times, Corey Long, Tom Laberger, Deandre Liu, Ben Pierce, and Gabby Shirley from the Lightning, Dave Michigan as well. But yeah, it's just you walk out of that sit down, that fireside chat with Julien BriseBois, and it is really something to behold because this is one of the best general managers in all of sports. And he doesn't have to do this. Listen, this isn't something that we don't do it with Jason Light, or at least I don't know. I'm not invited, but I'm pretty sure Jason Light doesn't do this. And I'm pretty sure that we have an opportunity to talk to Neander throughout the year, some of the guys with the Rays, but it's not like this where it's very, all right, this is when it's going to be. It's going to be at the arena at this time. And for Julien to be able to take time out of his day to give us, it's just great. So let's get right into it. He starts off talking about some of the numbers during the year. And he opened today with the team's number one in scoring. They were 10th in goal. They're 10th in goals allowed. They were 22nd last year. 5-on-5, which I know is a huge, huge thing for him. Goals percentage 7th last year is 25th. Power play is 4th. Percentage, though, is higher than when the team was first last year. Penalty kill is 7th, but first since November 1st. So he seems to be very happy with everything that he's getting from this team. The underlying statistics, he said this multiple times, he's very happy with. Why isn't the record better? And he says randomness of results. They lose a lot of games where they're doing a lot of good things as opposed to last year when they left the arena. That games that they lost, they kind of felt like, yeah, we probably deserve to lose that game. And I remember having this discussion 2 years ago when he said close to the same thing of there's these games that we lose and we go, we're just that close. We're that close. We're doing everything right. The process looks good. He didn't hide away and shy away from this being the most challenging stretch, the grueling stretch of the season. 14 games in 24 days. 10 on the road, 4 back-to-backs, and then 3 of those 4 back-to-backs, they played a team that did not have a game the day before. I think all of them, or if not 3 of the 4 of them, were less than 24 hours. The game on Sunday was less than 24 hours on Saturday, which is crazy to me that that's the way that the schedule goes. And he also was very honest that the guys are gassed during this time of the year, and that's why they had yesterday off, they had today off, and not they had to come in for meetings. No, they had days off, like completely off. And multiple times throughout our chat, he mentioned that it is not about the effort. It's just at times about the execution. Always about process over outcome. Stick with it and the results will come. We've mentioned, and I know Dave Michigan asked this question about at the end of games, the losing leads late. And he attributed it to if, like, listen, it happens when you're fatigued and you lose a little bit of focus. And but he doesn't seem like that is going to be a recurring issue. Like that's something that he should really be spending a lot of time on. Also, the interdivision thing. I know you look at their division with their record within the division this year, and it hasn't been great. 3-8 in the division, and you look at it and you go, you got to do better there. I think it was 3-8. I'm pretty sure. But he doesn't look at it as something where it's something to panic. Like I don't have to, make a mountain out of a molehill there. Because you look at I'm trying to get it here. Division, Lightning. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3-8. I got to look it up. I forgot to look it up before the show. But that record, it's not wearing on him because he's so focused on process over result. He's so focused on things like turnovers leading to chances, where last year was 19th. Turnovers leading to grade A's for the other team. It's 7th this year. So there's a lot of underlying statistics that Julien BriseBois seems to kind of recognize and understand that it doesn't necessarily correlate to what their record is overall. And their record, especially in the division. He understands that they have to get better and they have to win those games if they want to move up and guarantee themselves a playoff spot, but he's not freaking out about it. Trade deadline stuff. He's on the lookout like he is every year. He's going to see what's out there. We're going to be making that trade if it's out there, but he says it's still early. Most teams in the Eastern Conference still in it, and he wants to add to the team without taking away. Really aggressive by maximizing the roster. We've seen that already this year. And one thing that he's told us in the past that is different than this year, it doesn't have to be dollar out and dollar in this year. So that is a big, big part of how he's going to address the NHL trade deadline, because they've been so close to the salary cap the last couple of years, where if they were going to bring anybody in, they had to send pretty much the exact same number on the way out, or they wouldn't be cap compliant. But we've seen it, especially recently with Max Crozier, with him helping out the defense when Eric Chernak was banged up, but them sending him down. So as the cap gets calculated daily, it's not counting against the salary cap. He's been sent down to the AHL, Eric Chernak back in the lineup. So he is definitely going to be keeping his eye out for moves. And he didn't say it today. I didn't see him said it today, but this is something that he talks about all the time. I'm not just looking at the trade deadline and around the trade deadline to make this team better. It is a 365-day thing. And some people could say that, and you look at that and you're like, all right, whatever, Julien. Every general manager feels that way. But that's how he is. He doesn't always wait until the trade deadline to make a move. If there is something that springs up here in the next week, he'll do it. If it's a week before the trade deadline, he'll do it. He is always trying to find a way to make this team better. And that's what you have to love and appreciate about Julien BriseBois. He's just not going to sit on his hands and go, all right, well, nothing was there for us. He's going to turn over every stone. And his involvement with Team Canada and watching as many games and following as many players as he has this year is only going to help that. It's a byproduct of watching as many games. He's everywhere, traveling all across North America, making it happen. Another question that he was asked is the depth scoring. Is this Tampa Bay Lightning team too reliant on their top players? But he said it kind of comes in waves. Depth scoring comes and goes, and teams around the National Hockey League are becoming more top heavy. So it's not just the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you look at a lot of these teams, they also have that same kind of like, our top players play a ton and they make up the majority of our scoring. So I wanted to ask this question to Julien BriseBois, because this is something, especially over the last couple of days, we've seen a lot of people in Bolts Nation questioning, like, why is Nikita Kucherov playing so much? He has played a ton over the last couple of weeks. So I wanted to bring it up real quick, and let's bring it up real quick. So just, we have the exact numbers for you guys. All right. So the last 4 games. So check this out. The last 4 games for Nikita Kucherov. January 20th against the Toronto Maple Leafs, he played 25 minutes and 6 seconds. Next game, the very next night in Montreal against the Canadiens, 26 minutes and 55 seconds. January 24th at Chicago, 25 minutes, just a hair over there. And then the very next night in Detroit against the Red Wings, 26 minutes and 14 seconds. So some people are worried about Nikita Kucherov playing that many minutes. I am not one of those people. But I had to ask it because I know that is kind of a hot button conversation going on right now with Tampa Bay Lightning fans. Why is he playing so much? And I also, as I posed the question to Julien BriseBois, does it have anything to do with him getting some time off with the Four Nations coming up in a couple of weeks? He answered that no, has nothing to do with it. And these are the reasons why he said Nikita Kucherov is playing that many minutes and why he's not worried about it. 1, he can handle it. 2, he really takes such good care of himself. And 3, he relishes the opportunities. Like, he wants to do these things. He wants to be out there for the full 2 minutes of the power play. He wants to get out there with Point and Gensel, but then a couple shifts later out there with Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel. He likes the 11 and 7 because he gets to play with different guys. And Julien answered and also added to that answer a little while after that, saying, Jay, top players around the league are doing it too. This is not one of those things where Nikita Kucherov is the only guy playing this much. and the only guy playing the full 2 minutes on the power play. He had zero reservations about Nikita Kucherov playing this much. And I don't either. When you look at Kucherov, he's not a guy that's going into the corner, playing a very big physical game where you're worried about wear and tear. Like, this is a guy that plays at his own speed. You may be jockeying in the corner for the puck, but he takes a step back and he waits for the puck to come out. And he's a playmaker. And he loves playing hockey. There's nothing that he loves on this planet outside of his family than getting on the ice and playing hockey and doing whatever it takes to win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Maybe if he played a different style, I'd have an issue with it. But I look at Nikita Kucherov and I look at the type of player that he is, and I listen to what Julien BriseBois had to say about the situation. I've got no issue with it. Not one bit. And, well, listen, even though Julien said that's not a reason why that he's playing so much, I can say that it's going to help that even if he plays a ton over these next couple of games at Amalie Arena, he's going to have a couple of weeks off. Well, a handful of guys on his team are going to go represent their countries in the Four Nations. So for him, even though he's probably going to be in the ice somewhere, he's going to be able to kind of get a little bit of a rest and relaxation, whether it's physically or mentally. Again, he takes care of himself in such a way that this should not be an issue. Julien also added when it came to the Four Nations, it's going to be a break for guys not playing. So he's not going to ask a ton from these guys. And I'm not talking about the guys playing in the tournament, the guys that aren't participating. So that'll be good. That'll be good for him. Asking about kind of the comparisons from this year to last year. All in all, a better team than last year, making the guys around them better. I mean, you think about the players that have joined in and how they've made the guys around them better and also been a bigger part of the leadership core of this group. You look at Ryan McDonough, you look at a healthy Andrei Vasilevsky. He mentioned Jake Gensel and Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel taking another step. JJ Moser, who I saw today at Amalie Arena, he's in good spirits. So there's just a lot of people that contribute to the success and why this team has taken, they're better than last year. Multiple times throughout the chat with Julien BriseBois today, he mentioned these two things, work ethic and competitiveness. It's the number one thing. And he said he can't recall a game where the effort wasn't there. Guys haven't quit in games when they're behind. He also brought up the San Jose Sharks game where nothing went right for them in that game. The execution was as poor as it's been all year, but there was no issue with the work ethic. Those guys were battling. They did whatever it took to try to put themselves in a position to win that game. What does Brian McDonough bring to the team? That was a question asked by Lightning writer Benjamin Pearson. He said, stability, Ryan McDonough. He's like an extra coach out there. And I don't know if I mentioned it here on the podcast, but I'm in the middle of doing some work for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm writing an article on Ryan McDonough for the Tampa Bay Lightning website. So when it comes out, please, I'm just asking you guys to please support and to get that message out there. And I'm going around and asking multiple people that know and have coached or played with or have been around Ryan McDonough during his tenure in the National Hockey League. And hopefully talk to Patrick Maroon tomorrow when he's in town with Chicago Blackhawks, Brian Engblom and Julien BriseBois and Tom Mulligan, the trainer, and a couple of his other current and former teammates. I want to be able to talk to them and kind of give everybody a peek behind the curtain of who Ryan McDonough is as a player, as a teammate, but as a human being as well. So Julien was kind enough to give me a couple of minutes after the Fireside chat today to talk about Ryan McDonough. And you can just see the impact that he's had on this team. He's such an integral part of their defense and just the backbone and what they do well and the consistency. It's another guy. There's a steadiness to him. There's a consistency to him. And this team is a lot better because he is an assistant captain and he's suited up wearing number 27 for the Bolts once again. A guy that also came in from the offseason is Jake Gensel. And you could hear when Julien BriseBois was asked about the Lightning's left winger, how much of a just affection may be too strong, but just how much appreciation that he has for Jake Gensel. And I think Julien speaks for all of us because we knew Jake Guentzel was a good player, right? We saw it when he played all those years with the Pittsburgh Penguins, playing with Sidney Crosby. You saw it when he was acquired by the Carolina Hurricanes in their run last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But you don't really appreciate how good a guy like Jake Guentzel is until you watch him on a day in, day out, night in, night out basis. And he was like beaming talking about Jake Guentzel because he is legit. Whatever you need him to do, he's going to be able to help out. He can pass, he can shoot, he can play center, he can win faceoffs, he can play the wing, penalty kill, power play. Just an intelligent hockey player. And speaking to a couple of guys after the chat today that were part of the Lightning organization, they just spoke about how Jake Guentzel is he's so uber focused on his game. And that's what you get from a lot of these guys. Nikita Kucherov, Jake Guentzel, Anthony Cirelli, Brandon Hagel. It's just a couple of the guys. And, we talk about Brandon Hagel. Now we're looking at his contributions to this team and Team Canada. We'll talk more about Team Canada in a second. But Julien BriseBois looked at a guy like Brandon Hagel and was like, all right, this is a guy right here that if we get our paws on him, he is going to be even better than what he was in Chicago with the Blackhawks. And you have to say it, right? Like you have to give him credit and be like, you were spot on, dude. This was a guy that not many people knew about, and he's come in here, and he's one of the best players on this Tampa Bay Lightning team. Another guy that he was asked about was Connor Geekie, 20 years old. Julien BriseBois, did not expect him to be with the team this year, but really good in camp, really strong start to the season. He's eager to get better. He's got a great mentality. It's impressive to see what he's accomplished. Those are the words that Julien used. But he, like the rest of his teammates, no more, no less, Julien said, fatigue. And he's probably hitting that rookie wall. There's a few players that this upcoming break due to the Four Nations face-off are going to really benefit. And I truly believe that Connor Geekie is one of those. To be able to reset, take a deep breath, get away from the game a little bit, and then come back and finish the season strong. I like what I've seen from Connor Geekie. I think that, to get a couple, I think he could take his game even to the next level. You don't want to push a kid like that. I get that. But, you put him with these big time players and he's on the team, expectations should raise a little bit. I'm excited to see how he plays down the stretch and what kind of impact he can have with the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs. JJ Moser, again, I mentioned him walking around at Amalie. I see him so much, even though he hasn't been 100%. This decor certainly misses him. But the thing that sticks out about JJ Moser when it comes to Julien BriseBois is his hockey sense. The more you watch, the more you appreciate it. Kind of what we just said about Jake Guentzel. Smart plays all the time. The Lightning announced that they're expecting him back around the break. But, think about it. Does it make sense to bring him back before then? Julien said it wouldn't be impossible, but listen, you got a couple more games. You got these guys up here. Let them do their thing. And then when the break happens, let him recuperate some more, rehab some more. And then coming out of the break, I would fully expect JJ Moser to be back in there playing with Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman being the captain in the leadership role. That's another thing that was asked of Julien BriseBois because remember, when you look at what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done this year, it has been without Steven Stamkos, a guy that was their leader for such a long time. And I said this right here on my show, and I've said it for a while. If there's any team that can handle losing a guy that had the stature of a Steven Stamkos, it's the Bolts, especially getting Ryan McDonough back, but also because you have young guys in that locker room ready to take that next step. And you have a guy that's a captain anyway. He was a co-captain in for a lack of better terms, with this team with Steven Stamkos. And that's Victor Hedman. He really relishes the role of captain, as Julien said. He takes a lot of pride in the role. And he said it's worked as good as he's imagined. Cirelli and Hagel have stepped up their leadership roles. Matt contributed as well. And it's just a good thing to see that there's no fractures in the foundation. Everything with the Tampa Bay Lightning, when it comes to the leadership, guys have really stepped up, and nobody stepped up more than Victor Hedman. Ryan McDonough being back is a great thing. And again, I just mentioned it. Julien said that the pandemic really screwed up the salary cap. He's really back, really happy that he's back now, and talks with him about an extension premature, but it seemed like there was some interest there, which, Mac's not getting any younger, but if there's anybody that can play into his 40s, why not? Why not, right? Also, what is it going to take for Max Crozier to be in this lineup in a more consistent way? And that's one of the questions that I had. He said opportunity, consistency. Obviously, you want him to be consistent. He was banged up earlier this year. He's had some good moments with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but also opportunity because you have Chernak and you have Radish and you have Perbix. He has to get that opportunity. And I know some people, myself included, may think that he's one of the better right-handed defensemen on the team, but it takes a little while, right? It takes a while for the team and the organization to be comfortable with slotting him in there as one of the 6 or 7 defensemen every single night. But he mentioned, again, competitor, awesome work ethic. That is a common thread with this team. Also, Julien mentioned that he was at Michigan State, Minnesota this past Friday night, and seeing a guy like Isaac Howard live was impressive. You can tell that he's spending time in the gym, he said, body of an NHL man right now, and a little more pop in his skating. Play is really involved. The 200-foot game, he's winning battles, making plays through checks. He also gave a tip of the hat to Adam Nightingale and everybody over there with the Spartans doing a great job. That's exciting when you look at this young player. And for the last couple of seasons, we were wondering, like, who is going to be that next guy to be able to come in to make an impact early in his career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I don't know if it's going to be this year, but it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long because you look at this Michigan State team, and if you've gotten a chance to watch them, I've watched them a couple of times this year. Isaac Howard is a beast, and he's stepping to the forefront. He's taking a more of a leadership role in his team. You could just tell, like, he's got the cape on. He's ready to kind of put the team on his back. Let's go. It's exciting to know that guy, sooner rather than later, will be in a Tampa Bay Lightning uniform. So we'll see. And Julien was very, very respectful of let Isaac Howard, let Michigan State focus on the season and what they got to do there. And then after the season, then we'll have some conversations with them. I like that. I like that there was a, kind of a, hey, he's going to be part of the Lightning organization. But right now, his commitment is to Michigan State. And that's what Julien is, man. He gets it. There's just certain players, certain coaches, certain front office members that he doesn't have to say things like that. Like, his candor regarding the Isaac Howard situation wasn't like, yeah, well, whatever happens, happens. We're not concerned with that. Well, when he's here, then we'll worry about it. No, like, he definitely cared about, like, his well-being. He cared about his relationship with his team. And I like that kind of stuff. That, to me, is a common thread when it comes to successful people. When it's not just about them. It's about, like, what goes on in their life and how, not just about what goes on with them, but, like, what goes on with the people around them and their decisions and their well-being and how that's good for the overall vibe of everybody. I just, again, the more you hear from Julien BriseBois, you got to like the guy. Asked about Gage Gonsalves, really improved his game this year, physically stronger and improved skating the last couple of games. He noticed him down in AHL not feeling sorry for himself. He went down there. He's got, trying to prove, like, hey, I'm a part of this team. I am a guy that wants to come back and contribute. We'll see. We'll see. They need contributions. They need a jolt in the middle six, whether that comes from Gage Gonsalves or Jack Finley or somebody from the trade deadline. That's something to certainly keep an eye on. The Lucas Edmonds deal, traded to the Rangers for a fellow third-round pick and Ryder, says it's a classic change of scenery deal. Gave a lot of credit to Stacey Roos. He's the guy that was in charge and made that deal. So didn't really go into a big-time explanation of why that happened. It's just a classic change of scenery deal. What has impressed Julien BriseBois the most about this team this year? that guys really embrace their roles. Wherever they play, wherever they're, put in whatever position they're put in, they go out and they do their job. And he mentioned that without using their names, but he mentioned the bottom six guys helping out on the penalty kill or just in our special teams. Mitchell Chafee is a guy that's been, helping out on the power play. We know the PK with guys like Luke Glendening and Zemgus Girgensons, like they are solid. They don't make mistakes. And you want to see Girgensons finally find the back of the net. But that is why he's so impressed with how guys have embraced their roles, because it's a little bit here and a little bit there. The last thing you want is your first line to be your two penalty killers and your first line to be your power play unit, right? I've said this for years when it came to why the Lightning defense were so successful during their Stanley Cup runs, is I looked at the left-hand defenseman. Victor Hedman was the guy that was going to be your number one guy, but he didn't have to play top penalty killing minutes because of what Ryan McDonough did. And a guy like Mikhail Sergachev, who was here, you didn't have to put all the pressure of him being the quarterback of the power play. He could be the quarterback of power play too. And they did switch on and off, but it was just such a good balance where those guys didn't get run ragged and have to play all of these different minutes. Like it benefited them in such a way where they were successful. That balance is huge. Now, the last couple things I want to talk about here is Ed Encina asked a great question from the Tampa Bay Times about players getting better and how when he acquires players, like what is the most important thing of why they take that jump from being a good player and then you get them here and they just, they improve vastly. And Julien definitely acknowledged the fact that when they go out and get players, that they think that they can get them better. And it's worked great with guys like Brandon Hagel and, a guy like Anthony, well, not Cirelli, but Brandon Hagel. You said Brandon Hagel. Did you say another guy? I'm trying to think, because I put Cirelli on here, but that wasn't right. Okay, so Julien is he doesn't shy away from that, which I appreciate, because you got to have faith in your own abilities too. So Julien BriseBois in this front office, they look at players and they realize, like, hey, if we can get that guy here, he's going to be able to take his game to an even higher level. Brandon Hagel is the perfect example of that. And kudos to Julien for also mentioning a guy like Tanner Jeannot, where it didn't work out. He didn't kind of build on that one big year he had with the Nashville Predators. And he goes into detail about a guy like Brandon Hagel. That is a guy that when he goes out there, he turns the tide when the team needs him to. He is an elite penalty killer. And some of the stats that they looked into last year was he was a top 5 even strength performer for a Canadian-born player when it comes to, and think of this list. Listen to the list he was on. Connor McDavid, number 1, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, Brandon Hagel, Braden Point. 4 of the 5 of those guys, Julien said, were, no doubters for Team Canada for the 4 nations, and Hagel was added later on. When Julien was asked about Team Canada, he said it was a lot more work than he expected, but he is so grateful for this opportunity. You could just hear it in his voice. Everybody has traveled a lot, and he's gone to watch so many different games, and you can tell his back and forth with the guys that he's working with Team Canada. He's loving bouncing ideas and seeing how other general managers and other people in the front office, how they analyze players. It's a very eye-opening experience. That's what I gleaned from Julien. And he also understands the weight of the responsibility that he has working for Team Canada, and it means so much to the country. And he's got a lot of respect for the guys that did make the team and didn't make the team. And he just spoke so directly and so confidently about like the decision-making process and trying to build the best team with the right players and have these guys gel with their personalities, and how letting the guys know that didn't make the team, right, shaking their hands and let them know like he was so grateful for, for them and their interest, and the growth opportunity it was for him to see, like, to put himself in that position of, all right, what do I got to do? He loves working it does help working with John Cooper. He said their personalities, their chemistry that they've been able to build over the years working with the Tampa, articulated that the work is not done. And now that we know that Alex Pietrangelo is not going to be participating for Team Canada, that is a spot that needs to be filled. And Julien said he's going to get the best player to replace him, and that he's monitoring a few players because you don't know if that's going to be the last time that a guy pulls out. So he's taking this very, very seriously. And you can tell that it's an ongoing process. Up until that first game, he is going to be keeping an eye on what players are doing right now in the National Hockey League and keeping an eye on how these guys are performing, recently for their teams. Because maybe, and I'm just saying this, maybe you may not take the biggest name that is available, but maybe you'll take a guy that is playing really well. The last couple of weeks, he's on tear. And you want to infuse that into your lineup and really give them a leg up as you go against these other teams. What a great process to be a part of if you're Julien BriseBois, to be a part of Team Canada. And especially after what just happened with the World Juniors, he mentioned that as well, of, the entire country wishing that it turned out differently. And, how now they're all looking towards the Four Nations. It's going to be an incredible contest between Finland, Sweden, Team Canada, and the United States. And you can tell there's just an extra motivation. There's an extra pep in his step when he's talking about that. He's honored to be a part of this entire process, and it would mean the world for him and John Cooper and everybody involved to put Canada back at the top. So we'll definitely be keeping a keen eye on that. But it's just for a guy like Julien BriseBois, he's pretty stoic. He's a passionate guy, but there's just something different about representing your country, and especially Canadians, because hockey means so much to them. It's one of their two national sports. He is not taking this responsibility lightly. So to be able to listen to him speak about that, I'm very curious to see how this whole process works out. Because if Team Canada wins, a large part is going to be because the guy they have behind the bench and John Cooper, and one of the main guys who put this whole thing together, Julien BriseBois.